we always get into conversations about things, and one of the conversations we were having recently was whether or not people are born leaders or if you're made a leader, right? And so I was like, oh yeah, that's a good question. So you Google Psychology Today, right? It said the most basic and most often questioned asked about leadership, okay, is are you born with it or is it made? And it says apparently you're mostly made. Leaders are mostly made.
Right.
The best estimates offered by research is that leadership is about 1/3 born and 2/3 made. Okay. But there are traits that you have to have, okay, when to be, I guess, a strong leader or a successful leader.
Right.
And one of them is extroversion.
Right.
Extroverts make better leaders. Assertiveness, risk takers, intelligent, and not IQ intelligent, but like common sense intelligence, aware of,
Like instinctual.
yeah, not in general with IQ, but social intelligence, an understanding of a social situation and processes.
Right.
And so yeah, so they go into this whole thing, and they had a whole list of some of the things that a leader needs to have. And I found this on Forbes. They had a pretty cool article. One of the things that a leader should have is she should be a master communicator. Okay, and it doesn't mean that he needs to talk a lot.
Right.
A lot of that is listening.
Right.
Communicating. Part of communication is listening.
Yes.
Listening to other people, understanding, what it is that their needs are,
right, so
that you can fulfill them or help them out with whatever they have to do. And I'm sure, and we were talking prior to the show, and you have obvious, you are a leader in your role in your 9 to 5, right? So
about me. He's talking about me.
So I'm sure you can attest to some of these things. So I'm going to run through the list, and you tell me whether or not you think that these are things that you kind of find that you do need. You need to be an expert. Mm-hmm. Okay. And when I say expert, I mean not knowing everything, but being an expert at one particular field or skill set.
Right.
Okay. And then share that knowledge so that people know that you're the person to go to for advice. Yep. Become the person known for delivery solutions, focus on the results, and do what is necessary to achieve them.
Right.
Okay. Another one is to be curious. The best leaders are always learning. Ask a lot of questions. Seek out knowledge in as many ways as you can. The more you know, the more prepared you'll be for whatever comes your way. Be a teacher, not a boss. Okay? The best way to demonstrate your expertise is by teaching others. A leader establishes themselves and gains respect by sharing knowledge and not by being a dictator.
Wow.
Yeah. You like I did that?
Yes, I see that. Yeah, I see. Yeah,
I said dictator.
That emphasis. It's like when I put the emphasis on acquiesce. Right? And he said acquiesce.
You know what I mean. Then it says, ask for help when you need it. Great leaders know when to turn to someone for help. You can't lead alone. Asking for help does not make you any less of an expert or a leader. You will gain more respect by asking for help when you need it than if you would try to single-handedly solve something and not succeed.
Because no man is an island.
There you go.
Yep.
Don't be afraid to fail. And this is the one that we were talking about that was big. Don't be afraid to fail. It's okay not to succeed 100% of the time. Rather, it's encouraged. And then there's a quote. They had a quote from Henry Ford. Henry Ford said, failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently.
Yes, that goes back to that learning.
There you go. So that goes back to that learning. So making mistakes is one of the best ways to learn and grow, and failure should be looked at as a stepping stone to success.
Yes.
So what do you think? Do you agree with those?
Indubitably.
Yes, so you think that a lot of those things are necessary?
I do.
When leading.
I do. I think it's about being a servant leader, which is one of the greatest missing components in any business environment, because people think leadership is about results through data, but it's results through people. How do people get results? Education. Where do you get the education from? The person responsible for that team, right? So how do you know they're going to be successful? Well, it determines how much you've committed to that team, to the health of that team. So I always say this: my failures of success are based on my team's failures or success. So that's my measurement for me as a leader. I've always been responsible for people since a long time ago.
Yeah, no,
for
I mean, when I met you,
Yes.
you were in a leadership role
Yes.
at your job, right? When we first met, yeah.
Yes. So for
So
me,
you've always had a team
yes,
of people.
part of my journey, and we'll go in with the topics. Where's the topics?
Oh,
I think it's
oh.
I think it's like what is it? Story time. So anyway, I had to do it.
Okay,
I
go
had
for
to
it.
do it. So part of my journey, I've been a student my entire life, and I still am. And that's why I've grown as an influential leader. Because I've always said to people, no matter what field position I've held, and I've done a lot of different things in the retail world, from security to operations to merchandising to store management, to regional. I've always said I'm a coach. So whenever everyone said, what's your position? I said coach. And they go, that's a position? Yes. And they look at me with a third eye, right? And for me, it's about I'm responsible for people. Yeah. So one of the things that I learned early on was humility. It ain't about me, right? It becomes about me when my team's failing, because then that self-reflection comes into play. So what I've learned is, it's a hard lesson to learn if you're not willing to learn. When I had early failures, the first reaction is to blame everybody else, right? And then I realized that that's a lonely road. And I had to say, well, and one person said to me, who's responsible for the team? That's all I needed to go back and say, damn, I failed. So from that point on, I said, all right, I'm going to learn from all of them, the best leaders that I've had and the worst leaders. And I had a gentleman by the name of John Bias. He was the first person who mastered the art of listening to learn, not listening to respond. Mm-hmm. And he really saw me and listened to me as an individual. And he was able to guide me. He was one of the biggest, the first turning point in my career. So I realized then that I not only, through John Bias, I not only had to listen to what was being said, but I had to be able to hear what wasn't being said through body language, right? Because someone can tell you, say, hey, is everything okay? Yeah. Well, based on that response, it's not okay. So what do you do with that information? Oh, you can either be a manager and say, all right, cool. Well, if you need anything, let me know. And you walk away.
Or go do this. I need you to do that. I need you to do this. I need you to do that. And you don't even notice that this guy's like, something's wrong with him, but you don't care. All right, I need to get that done. I need to get that done.
Right. Or you say, hey, Tom, let's talk for a minute. Step into my office. What's going on? And one of the things I do with and I'll give you an example. I have an HR manager that I can see her body language. She just didn't seem there. And she seemed overwhelmed, but her pride wasn't going to let me know that she was overwhelmed. So I called her to my office and said, all right, here it is. This is the safe zone. We're not leaving this room until we figure out what's going on. You don't seem happy. You seem overwhelmed. Something's going on. And then she broke down, right? A lot of things happen in the personal life. A lot of things happen at the work. She is over, blah, blah, blah. And it came out, right? And it's like, all right, so let's see what's on your plate. What is that we can lay off? What can we delegate? How can I help you through that? And that's part of that whole process, because you don't want to see your people overwhelmed. You don't want to see them treading water, trying to barely make it to shore. You want to be the lighthouse. You're responsible to make sure that you always have that light on, and you're guiding them to shore. So I think it comes back to humility. When you said being an expert, I believe I don't have to know everything, but I need to understand what my team is responsible for and how to best position them to be able to maneuver in their roles, right? So I have to understand what applications that they're being asked to use. I need to understand the fundamentals of those applications. I need to understand what are the tasks that they're challenged with, so I can be able to guide them. But I need to have experts who are smarter than me in those positions, right? So they're going to be the masters of their domain, But I understand the fundamentals. I have regular touch bases, so I understand where we're going, and I can steer them in the right direction. And I use their information to guide me in my decision-making process. That's critical.
Yeah.
So one of the things I have 3 senior leaders on my team, and one of the things is I give them the stage is theirs, right? I'm sitting up in the bleachers and I'm watching the show, right? And I'm there if they need me. But you don't hire people to put in positions to micromanage, because you smother them and you lose them that way. So I give them the platform to shine, right? Some people have a hard time understanding that concept because they've been in an environment of business where they're not allowed to shine. They have to always run something by the boss, right? So I always say, is this within your means? Is this within the scope of what you're responsible for? Is your decision in the best interest of the organization? Then go with it. Let me know how, at the end, just say, hey, by the way, this was the challenge. This is my solution. This is the result.
Right.
Boom.
Yeah.
Now, if it didn't work, all right, why didn't it work? What were the opportunities? Where were the misses? What can we do differently? That's the education process. Right. So you got to be willing to fail.
It's just easy. It's not.
Crazy. I'm so crazy. You so crazy.
Acquiesce.
Crazy.
No, I was talking about my friend Acquiesce.
Say my name. Say my name. Right. This is what you were thinking. Yes. Oh,
You are listening to
He described me. He said, "I'm the."
You're listening to Catch the Craze. You're listening to Catch the Craze. You're listening to Catch the Craze. To Catch the Craze. You are listening to Catch the Craze on Catch the Craze. You're listening to Catch the Craze.